Then they went home. Now Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw 2 white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" the angels asked her. "Because they have taken my Lord," she replied, "and I don't know where they have put him." She turned to leave and saw someone standing there, and it was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. I want you to note those words, okay? "Dear woman, why are you crying?" Jesus asked her. "Who are you looking for?" She thought he was a gardener. "Sir," she said, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him." "Mary," said Jesus. She turned to him and cried out, "Rabboni," which in Hebrew means teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus said, "for I haven't yet ascended to the Father, but go and find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my God and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, "I have seen the Lord." And then she gave them his message. Great story. Christ is risen. So there were a few people at a church gathering one day, 3 guys who were sitting around and they were discussing with each other, when you die and you're in a casket and the friends and your church, family are mourning over you, what is it that you would like them to say? Maybe you've asked that question before. Art says, well, I would like them to say that I was a wonderful husband, a fine spiritual leader, and a great family man. Merle said, I would like them to say that I was a wonderful teacher and a servant of God who made a huge difference in people's lives. Don said, I'd like them to say, look, he's moving. Some of you might have heard this one. Sometimes my jokes here at the Lighthouse are kind of cross the line a little bit of appropriate. Pastor was presenting a children's sermon one day, and during the children's sermon, he asked the children if they knew about the resurrection. And, as you know, and Beth often asks the kids questions here during the children's message, and they will give their answers, and it can be kind of a dangerous thing. So he was asking the children if they knew the meaning of the resurrection, and there was silence for a moment, and then one young child raised his hand and he said, I don't know the meaning, but I know that if you have a resurrection that lasts for more than 4 hours, you're supposed to call the doctor. Some of you won't hear anything else I've said now. So we're going to leave the jokes. We have a question this morning, and if you've never been here before, many of you haven't, it's a chance for you to contribute to the service. We ask a question every Sunday, and we invite you to answer it. If you'd like to answer it, you need to get one of these guys' attention, and they will bring a microphone up to you, and you just stand up, you speak directly in the mic, and you give us a brief answer. And I suspect we may have several people who want to share today, so let's keep it brief. I gave a very general answer, and really what I'm asking, or a general question, and really what I'm asking is just for people to talk about where they are with Jesus or where they are with what God is doing in their life right now, especially our church family here. So what are your thoughts about this day as you reflect upon Jesus in your present place, in your faith journey, and what God is doing in your life? So we'll give a moment here for you to think about it, and let's see if we can get a few of you to share.
Yeah, my name is Steve. I want to thank God today because I got 2 special ladies in my life. One's my mom here. The other one is, I think she knows who she is. Anyway, I thank God for both these women. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Stand up.
So I thank God for helping me find the path that I'm supposed to go in my life, because I'm a senior in high school, and got a couple of different options that I've got going, and he's making the door very open and very shut for what I should go and what I shouldn't.
Cool. Very cool. Who else can share? Over here. Hey. You got it, Lion?
My thoughts about this day is that it's just a gift. God himself rose Jesus from the grave, so if he's given him that great of a second chance, he can give me one. I don't really know where I'm at in my journey of faith, but he's just given me so much, and what he's doing for me is greater than I can ever explain.
Thanks for sharing. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for being here today. Who else would like to share? Bear? Mark, it's good to see you, brother.
I put this on my Facebook this morning. I said, in my early walks with Christ, I used to think that it all depended on what I did for God. Now I'm older and see clearly that it's all about what Christ did for me. It just disappeared. Hang on. Now I'm old and I clearly see it's all about what God did for me in the form of his Son. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself. God simply chose to open my eyes and my heart to the truth, and that is found in Christ. In him we have the fullness of the Father who dwells in us. He is risen. Today I'm 55 too.
Hey, happy birthday. Thanks for sharing, Mark.
Hi, my name is Alfred. This is the one day that the whole world wonders, what really happened? Is it true? And they wonder if he was even really here because of all the things that are happening on the earth today. Well, this is what he's doing in my life. The resurrection day, to me, is the day when that life that Jesus proclaimed for all of us has been muddled into the minds of those that don't believe, and today it shakes the world for one day. Well, I wish that today would be every day, the resurrection day, so that the whole world can change finally, and there would be nothing here but good and happiness. But obviously that's not going to happen, because that was the story told, that the coming of Jesus coming back is going to be the end. But as we trail through all of these trials and troubles and tribulations, all of us, we should all be helping each other, and that's what this day means, to help each other and live. And Jesus showed us a path and a way, how to do it and how to treat each other, and that's my goal of my life.
Thanks, Alfred. Thank you for sharing today. It's good to have you here.
Justin, and
right into the mic, Justin.
all right. The day, as I reflect on the day, or anytime I really think about Jesus, it makes me get choked up. But today, I don't know, I'm not choked up, I'm not crying, so that's good. And in my present place, I've never felt so strong for Jesus. Like I feel like I'm getting some gift that I don't even appreciate, but I know I do. And God is bringing all kinds of different blessings to people in my life, and it's coming at me fast and hard, and it's kind of hard to figure out, but I'm just ready for the journey.
Thanks, Justin. Glad you're here. Anybody else?
My name is Gary, and I would say that the first part of the question makes me think about how God has shown his mercy is greater than any sin that I've ever committed. And has brought me back to him. That's why Easter to me is so special, is realize how strong my God is, and to know that as the future days might come, that his grace and his mercy will still be greater than any sin that I can commit.
Amen. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to allow one more. Anybody else? There in the back. Run, Ryan. Thank you. And then we'll close it. And I will tell you before Rich shares that if you want to answer the question later, we're going to do that at 6:30 tonight. You are welcome to come. It's going to be fun.
Hi, I'm Rich. I'd like to just say gratitude for Jesus' sacrifice and his example. And as far as my growth in faith, it's ongoing. I am absolutely a work in progress. And so I just gratitude is the big thing for me.
Thank you, Rich. Good to see you. We've had a lot of new people worshiping with us at Lighthouse as of late. Some of you are here today. And it occurs to me, as I've been thinking about that after I meet people and first learn their names, that the first question that I ask you, it's kind of an odd question. And so I thought I'd explain it. Usually when I meet people here and I get their names, I ask, so why are you here? And I've been a pastor my whole adult life, and I've never really asked that question in the past. But it's almost like there's something inside of me that wells up that wants to really ask, do you know where you are? Do you know that you're at the Lighthouse? And I know these people, and they are very weird. And so something is seriously wrong with them, and so you might as well tell me what's wrong with you. So lately I've been kind of wondering, Dale, what's wrong with you? Maybe people just come to church now and then. And maybe, Dale, it's none of your business and you should keep your nose to yourself. Truthfully, I tell other people that all the time. And I tell people all the time, you worry about your side of the street, I'll worry about my side of the street. You worry about, let them worry about their side of the street, you worry about your own side of the street. And it's a true statement, and then it's a core value of what we just strive to live out here at the Lighthouse. That said, something has just told me this morning that I need to ask the question to all of you. Why are you here this morning? And man, this is probably the largest gathering, maybe about the same as we had at Christmas. And so it's a lot of people. And a lot of you are new here, and some of you came along with family. Some of you came here because on Easter you go to church. And you really don't want me to get into your business. I understand that, but I want to ask you this morning, why are you here? In fact, turn and tell your neighbor, or ask your neighbor, why are you here? Why are you here? Now, it's interesting because every once in a while I'll meet somebody here at Lighthouse. Every once in a while I'll meet somebody here at Lighthouse, and the answer that I get, okay. I'll ask people, why are you here? And the answer I get is sometimes, I don't know. And it's really what they mean. I really don't know why I'm here. And some of you come because, you jump on the shuttle to get out of center for a while, or some of you, you come because, it's better than what the alternative is, or that you're alone. But I want to kind of think for a moment about why it is that people do come here, and maybe it would help you identify why you're here, or why at least you came to the Lighthouse the first time. Many or most of you are here today to worship the risen Christ on Easter, and I get that. But a lot of you have chosen to come and do it here because you've discovered love and acceptance in this community that we call Lighthouse. And you've been allowed to come without judgment and work through your personal struggles and doubts and questions about God. And in the process, you have found a home and a community, and you are growing in love with Jesus and with His people. Now, if that speaks to any of you, if that's you, turn and touch somebody and say, that's me. Now, some others of you are here because in this time of your life and faith and church life, the mission of the Lighthouse is why you are here. You maybe first came because you knew me or someone else and you checked it out, but you've been captured by the transparency and the diversity of this community of faith, and something in you says, this is where I think God wants me right now in my life, because I can grow here and I can serve here. If you think that's you, turn and touch somebody and tell them, I think that's me. Now, I love this next category because I encounter it all the time. Some of you came because you hoped that the Lighthouse, this place that you had heard about, would help somebody else in your life that you cared about. And you got here and you realized, man, I need help. If that's you, turn and touch a friend and say, I am messed up. Turn back and say, and codependent. Now, here's why many, maybe most of you are here, and why it is that you first came. And see if this fits you at all on this day or in the past. You came here wondering, isn't there something more to this life that I'm living? There has to be a higher purpose or a higher power for my life. I can't go living like I'm living. I can't go on living like I'm living. Here's the thing for many. I've been working on my issues, and there's still a hole inside of me that nothing else will seem to fill. There's this spiritual void that is still empty, and I'm here in the hope that here something may start to fill it. And my friends, if that's you here this morning, then the rest of my time is devoted to you. You know, we started Lighthouse now 3 years and 8 months ago, those of you who've been around the whole time. And it's been quite a ride and quite a journey. My wife and I started Lighthouse Church when I was very new in recovery and kind of walking through a dark period of my life and still kind of figuring out a lot of things about this new life of mine. And we wanted to create an environment and a community and a church home for people who maybe don't fit in other places. And that you could come here and know that you would not be judged no matter what struggles you've had, what life experience you've had, where you are in your present life, what your lifestyle is, or even what you believed. That you could come here, you're going to hear about Jesus, you're going to learn some things about our faith, but you are safe here. And I sometimes can't believe what God has done in the midst of this experimental community and through a bunch of messed up folks like you and me. And I shared on Good Friday, Friday evening, that one of the most common prayers that I say now is I go home at night and I literally ask God, please tell me what you are up to. What are you up to here? On this Easter Sunday, because we come from so many different places and so many of us are maybe new to the faith or maybe re-exploring the faith, I thought it might be important to just share a few basics. I like to do that on Easter Sunday anyway. And for those of you who have been part of the faith your whole life in church, it's all right to be reminded of what you know sometimes, right? So here's where I want to start. I want everybody to hear me that there is a God who created the heavens and the earth, and He created you, and He created you unique and special, and He has created you in His image. You are a masterpiece of the handiwork of God. He has created you out of love, and His deepest longing is to be your friend. and to walk with you in a loving relationship. Now, love, love it's kind of a strange thing. We talk about falling in love, and yet love is really never kind of a forced thing, We can receive somebody's love, or we can reject people's love, and it's kind of an odd thing. And with God, we have this thing in our life, this thing that the Bible calls sin. And here's the deal. Number one, God has created us out of love to be in a love relationship. But you and I are born with this self-centered, sinful nature. And daily, we desire to place ourselves at the center of the universe. Tell your neighbor, I am the center of my universe. See, now you're kind of doing that because I tell you, but truthfully, there's not a person in here who does not believe it. In our freedom, we have all turned our back on God. Even in our faith, we struggle with the tension between God's will and our own self-will. And part of our faith teaches us that we are not the center of our universe. And if you are here today because life has not been going that well on the way you've been putting yourself first and in the center, then you've come to the right place, because that ain't how it works. Truthfully, that's what got the rest of us here to Lighthouse in the first place. But Jesus is God's one and only Son, and He came to reconnect us with God. If we've turned our backs on God, Jesus comes and He wants to turn us back around. And Jesus comes to testify to the fact that God loves us, and He wants to reestablish God's relationship with you and with me. And in His suffering and death, He joins us in our own suffering and in our own pain and in our struggles in life, and He forgives us. He walks with us. He takes us by the hand, and He says, I'll go through this with you. I want you to remember that. We're going to come back to that. Finally, Jesus is raised from the dead. That's what this day is about. So it doesn't end with Jesus joining us in our suffering and on the cross. Jesus, in His victory, offers to you and me the free gift of His forgiveness. God's gift in Jesus of forgiveness and grace is just simply a gift offered to you today with love. It's the reestablishing of a love relationship with you. And it means that we don't have to do this alone. One of the most frequent conversations that I have here at Lighthouse with people often is about their desire to reconnect with their family, because their life issues or their family members' life issues have disconnected them. I'm in conversations all the time with some of you about the desire to reconnect with your kids. In fact, if you've had to walk through a time, either in your past or in your present, where on your heart is this longing to reconnect with family, just raise your hand. I want to show you how many of you there are here. Look at that. You can look around. It's huge in this church. Just huge. Now, I want to be clear that for some, those wounds may never completely heal on this side of eternity. For some, death even separates us. But often, little by little, I get to see relationships restored, and it's one of the coolest things that I ever see. Recently, we've had a couple of people I consider friends who actually met in recovery before I met in the faith community here called Lighthouse. And they've been a bit disconnected from their kids, one of them completely. And I remember some of the conversations, especially with Jamie. Many of you don't know Jamie, about about, just being patient, and God will work things out if you keep working on yourself. And recently, Jamie has been able to have his kids to his place. And I'll never forget the weekend when he was getting ready for his kids to come. They weren't staying overnight, but he wanted the bedroom ready so that they could see where they would stay when they can come and stay overnight. He had the bunk beds up. Recently, Susan, who's here this morning, Susan was filled with nervousness and joy this week as she came to me and she said, "My son is sleeping over this week." Oh, that was so cool. And I was thinking, some of you have this heart's longing and desire to be reconnected with your kids. And it occurred to me that's exactly how God feels about some of you here this morning. It's exactly how God feels about you this morning. He's been waiting and he's been anticipating, and for 2,000 years he's been getting this moment ready so that you could come home. Friends, you don't need to understand all the theology that I've shared today. You don't need to explain what the resurrection means to people. You don't need to somehow be able to regurgitate the correct theology. What's important for you to hear and know today is that the message of the cross and resurrection is that there is a God who has his loving arms wide open this morning, inviting you home. Wide open, inviting you home. He loves you just as you are. He loves you more than you could ever know. Nothing that you can ever do will make him love you more than he already does or less than he already does. His love is sure and complete right now for you. That's the message of Easter. I'd like you to grab a Bible and turn to Ephesians chapter 3. In our church Bibles, it's page 978. Ephesians 3, page 978. I often like to give a little action plan for people to work on for the week, and I think this would be a great passage for us as a people to just read this week, maybe every day, just as a morning devotion. It's chapter 3, page 978, and I want to read beginning at verse 14. And I just want you to soak these words in as I read them. Paul writes, "When I think of all this, I fall to my knees and I pray to the Father, the creator of everything in heaven and on earth. I pray that from his glorious, unlimited resources, he will empower you with inner strength through his Spirit. Then Christ will make his home in your hearts as you trust in him. Your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong." Man, that is so cool. "And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep is his love." Can it be any clearer than that? May you experience the love of Christ. Though it is too great to understand fully, then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. I was struck this week in my reflections on John's Easter story that I read earlier, how Mary Magdalene didn't recognize Jesus when she first saw him. And it's maybe not that hard to understand. She had seen him die on the cross. But maybe there's something more, and I want to wrap up with this thought for some of you. Maybe there's something more. John said that she was weeping, that she was overcome with grief, and I suspect even fear and uncertainty. Mary had had a tough life, you see. The Bible says that she had walked a very difficult life, and that Jesus had accepted her and given her healing and new life. And now Jesus was gone, and she was having to face the crossroads of whether she was going to go back to her old life or not. Anybody here facing that crossroad today? Am I going to go back to my old life or not? It occurs to me that some of you are at that crossroads right now. And I remembered when I was in the depths of my own addiction and depression, and I could not see God through the tears. I could not see God through the tears. And in the midst of our struggles, oftentimes, we face the temptation to go back to where I was, because even though it was horrible, it's familiar. And for those of you at that crossroads, I want you to hear the good news today that we learn here from John that it is at our lowest time, our darkest time, when we are most self-absorbed and in self-pity, when we cannot see Jesus through the tears and through the struggles of our life, it is then that we are most vulnerable. And here's the good news. See, there's bad news because we're vulnerable. The good news is that when we are most vulnerable, it is then when our hearts are most open. And when your hearts are the most open, that is when Jesus comes as he does this morning, and he speaks to you your name. Mary. Mary. Mark. Promised of Easter is that Jesus knows your name. He knows what you're going through, and he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. You're still going to go through your stuff, I'm sorry to tell you, but you don't have to do it alone. He will go with you. You know, the greatest evidence of the resurrection of Jesus from the dead is that it's a historical fact, is not really what's written in the New Testament, though it was written fairly soon after Jesus was raised, or other people referred to Jesus and his death on the cross in history. What's actually the most critical and convincing evidence that Jesus was raised from the dead, what it is it's the tears and the fears of Mary and John and Peter and the others. That they were wiped away, that they didn't go back when they were at the crossroads, but they were touched by the resurrected Christ in such a way that they became bold and faithful. And they were so certain that Jesus had risen from the dead that they would proclaim that God's one and only Son lived and loved like Jesus did in such a way that it even cost many of them their lives, and yet they were so convinced of it that they were willing to die for the resurrected Jesus. If you want evidence of the power of Easter and the risen Jesus, you need to look no further than the people around you. People who have experienced God doing for them what they could not do for themselves. And they still struggle, but they are no longer slaves to fear, I want to tell you. You know why? Because they are God's children. Jesus has called their name and wiped their tears and has been doing a new thing in them, and he can do it in you. And I'm going to invite you now to stand up and meet some of my friends.